Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome
Hi.
to Essential Chats with Mit. Before we get started, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit. You know, we always have a song that resonates in my head that I think about when I'm getting ready to do a show. Well, today I went old school again. Sweet inspiration, right? Let me just kind of read. I need your sweet inspiration. I need you here on my mind every hour of the day. Without your sweet inspiration, the lonely hours of the night just don't go away. Inspiration. Oh, what a power. And I've got the power every hour of the day. I need your sweet inspiration to go on living, to keep on giving this way. And what you're going to do is you're going to hear pretty soon from people who are inspire us. This has been something that I have had in my head that is now a reality, is a vision, this show right here. So it's Friday at 4:30. I told you on Twitter and Instagram and all those places to bring your drinks, weigh it, your lemonade, your iced tea. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. And so I have my inspiration. It's wine time for me. And I just want to remind you that this is a time when we sit back in our chair and we listen and we get inspired, sweet inspiration. Now, before we do get started, there's some serious things that I need to talk with you. First, happy Social Work Month. It is the end of Social Work Month. It's been a great, busy month. We still have a few more days, but this is the last Friday. So I want to say to you all, happy Social Work Month, and thank you for being in this profession. We need each and every one of you. But first, the last 2 weeks has been also very difficult. Our Asian American brothers and sisters were attacked in Atlanta, Georgia. We had gun violence that occurred in Boulder, Colorado. Just last night, tornadoes went through the South and demolished people's homes. And then we even had the nerve to have some governor in Atlanta suppress the right to vote. We also have over 550,000 people who've died of coronavirus. So let's just take a minute and think about that. You know, sometimes people ask me, why do we take a minute? What do I do when there is a disaster? Why should I say anything? Because social workers show up and support one another when people are in their darkest days. Also, every one of you are a leader. Whatever you post, whatever you tweet, influences people in your family, influences people in your friends, influences your colleagues. So, this is not a time to remain silent when catastrophes occur, because we all know the silence means you're complicit. So that's the seriousness of today. Now let's kind of move on with my sweet inspiration. First, I have something for you to do. It's the end of Social Work Month. But I am not going to be the Brian Kemp. I am not going to suppress your vote. It is time for you to check your status with NASW. Are you a member? Has your membership lapsed? If it has, I need you to go in and register and get your voting privileges, because starting April the 6th, we're going to have you all vote for our leadership on the national board. And leaders matter. The delegate assembly came up with the priority goals, and now these people who get elected to the board will drive those goals. So it's important for you to go on NASW website and look up their names. We're going to post some videos of them. We're going to have a meet the candidate night. I am going to be the Stacey Abrams of social work. because we always say every time voting stops, only a small limited number of people voted, sometimes less than 10%. How can we ask anyone? How can we ask anyone to go out and vote? How can we ask our members to go in these state capitals and demand that they take off these suppression laws that they're trying to pass, unless we show up and vote for our association? So pick a date. The dates are that you're going to be allowed to vote is April the 6th through May the 28th. See, we're a little bit different from Kemp. We give everybody a wide window of time to vote. A wide window. You have from, what did I say? The 6th to the 28th. Write a date on the calendar right now, and then commit to vote on that particular day. And then let me know at presidents@socialworkers.org that you voted. It's important. It's critical. It is what, if you want an association that does what you need it to do, then you need to vote. Okay? Now, let's get back to our inspiration people. So we're going to have 4 individuals who had a vision, and they created that vision into a reality. And they work at it every day. Every day. And their vision has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, because that's what happens with idea people. So often when I'm on these Zoom calls, social workers say, what can I do? Or what if my supervisor does this? Or I have an idea here. Well, these individuals took their ideas and they made it happen. And they shaped the world, and they bent that arc of justice towards liberation for all. And that's what you need to think about. Think about your idea. Listen to how these individuals achieved that. And we're going to have a real nice interactive session where we'll take your questions. Now, we do know all along the East Coast, we're experiencing winds, high winds, right? Thank God we don't have any more tornadoes or hurricanes going through here. But somebody might just get bumped out. If that happens, they'll come back in. It is just something, with Zoom, that's the reality of the world that we live in right now. But you're not on Zoom. You're in Mit's house, right? Around Mit's table. Going to talk about real things. So just think about Mit's table. I'm going to do a toast to my inspiration people, because every time I listen to them and I hear them, I get so excited. I get excited for the profession. I want new students and everyone to hear what they're saying, because so many has ideas. Now, one person is not a social worker, but does that matter to us? No, because they embrace the code of ethics. They carry out and work very hard to make sure that people who sometimes very rarely get heard are heard, or their needs get addressed. So you're going to hear from all of these first. First, we're going to have Joanne Bartholomew. Now, Joanna is, she used to be my grad assistant. I'm proud. I'm going to be a mother right here. I'm proud. She used to work for me at Westchester University, and I would give her a task, and off she would go and come back and achieve that. But she is the founder and CEO of O'Hara Development. She was going into a community, and she's not buying a house. She's buying a block to improve people's lives. And then we have Hunter Beaton. And Hunter is a student, he says. He's at the University of Texas, Austin. Now he says, I'm just a student, but he's more than a student. He's a leader. He's a change agent. He's a person that's on the move. And he has day one bags, and he's going to tell you what day one bags are all about. And then we go to Jack Brown. Jack Brown is the CEO of Core Services. He believes, now listen to this, he believes that there's no better person that can help someone who is at their darkest moments than us. Than us, right? He doesn't come at it with, they have to come to me, that oppressive model. He starts where the person is, whether they are transitioning because they're homeless, or whether they're coming out of the prison system. He gives them hope to make sure that they can reach their destiny. And then we have Tiffany Lane. Another one of my students in undergrad, so proud of her. She sat in the classes, and then she went off to my alma mater, Howard University, and then she went off to Morgan State University to get her PhD. And you know what? She took my job. I actually retired, and she came back and was the chair at Westchester University. She was the chair at Norfolk State, and she is the chair now at the University of North Carolina in Wilmington. Well, she did her dissertation, but she didn't do what most people say. You know how they write their dissertation and then they bury it? She actually actualized it. She heard the voices of people who were aging out of the foster care system, and she wanted them to be supported when they were in college. And she made sure that those crystal stairs that Langston Hughes talks about, she made sure that there was something on those stairs for everybody that she touches. So you see why I coined, and I want you to play the music to Sweet Inspiration, because you're going to be inspired today. You're going to have an opportunity to ask questions, and don't sit there and not put questions in the chat and then wonder why we weren't interactive, because we can talk together all night long, right? But we're going to want to get you to have your thoughts. So first, we're going to start, and you know, the best way to do this is through the alphabet. We're going to start with Joanna. And Joanna's going to take time and tell you her story. I'm not coming back each time to say, okay, from Joanna, now we're going to go to Hunter, and then we're going to go to Jack, and then we're going to go to Tiffany. You know what? They know how to do that themselves. So I'm going to sit back, sip, and listen. Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, everybody, and we'll come back later.
Wow, thank you for that warm introduction. And I feel like, you know, you might be ready to take somebody else's seat, Professor J. I still call her Professor J, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe Oprah, for that matter. Maybe it's in addition to that, it's the Oprah of social work. But hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Bartholomew. Some of you may know me as Joanna Jane. I am the CEO and founder of O'Hara Development Partners. We have a for-profit and a nonprofit organization. So you will hear me go back and forth between these organizations quite often as I share with you of what I've been doing in the field of social work. Some people have also stated that I'm a disruptor to the field of social work because I don't necessarily comfortably check a box. I'm not necessarily an educator, although I do teach. I'm not a clinician, although that was one of my roles at one point in time. I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own company. I own my own business. And we do things very differently to be able to make sure that we are not allowing the silos that sometimes can be placed on us as social workers to be a barrier really to what we can be doing within our community. During my time as a social worker, as I stated, well, in the traditional world, I did practice clinically. I did work in a hospital as a hospital social worker, along in the behavioral health field as well, working with children that experienced, various types of disabilities. So I've worked with them in that particular population. But one of the things that never left my heart was where the seed was originally planted. And that was the fact that I grew up in a household with an entrepreneur, my dad. Hey, Dad, if you happen to be, browsing through social media because your grandchildren does it for you. Hi. But because I was raised in a household with an entrepreneur that was also in real estate development. I was that kid that, my Saturday weekends, was Heckinger's. That was the original Home Depot. I might be aging myself a little bit, but, that was my Saturdays, looking at lumber and picking up paint and, going and picking up rent from tenants and things of that nature. And I didn't know really, that everybody else's life didn't necessarily look like that. As a kid, you kind of take advantage of that type of privilege. But once, I got older and I got into the field of social work, I saw that there was such a great need of wealth education. No matter what social work hat I was wearing, the fact that wealth was a barrier said there's a bigger issue here, and we need not sweep it underneath the carpet. We really need to make sure that we're including this information in all that we're doing. So after wearing so many hats, I decided to branch off from the wings of my father when it comes to real estate. And I decided to say, you know what, this will be the last time that I will actually work for someone else, where I'm building up their department, I'm building up, their corporation, and I'm going to take the seed of entrepreneurship, the seed of real estate, and I'm going to take that with my master's degree in social work as well as in counseling, and I'm going to develop a community development company, one that doesn't necessarily just focus on the next house that we flipped or the next house that we have as a rental property, but really focusing on the heart of the people. So if we are doing a rental property, I want my rental properties to have resources where if that person is one day going to be a homeowner, that they can go through our housing and financial counseling initiative, where they're going to get that one-to-one support so they can transition at some point in time and become a homeowner. If I'm going to sell houses to families that will, one day actually own those homes, right? I want to make sure that as they're coming into the home, that they're making an informed decision. So they can also go through some housing and financial counseling, but it may look a little bit different than someone that's, in that rental phase right now. But now that potential homeowner is going in with, down payment assistance, other resources that are available in the city. I really wanted to make sure that we were doing this from the heart of the people. So if we can bring up the first slide, it didn't, like I said, it didn't all start off this way. It took me really branching off and deciding to say, I'm going to do something that I know that I've always been able to do. And I'm going to start it, right here in my hometown, which is Philadelphia. Shout out to my Philly folks. So if we can bring up the Lincoln Drive slides, this is where it started, was just being able to see if it was possible, right? So the first slide that you're probably seeing at this point shows an older home. This was an old Victorian home, and it was about maybe 6 bedrooms, maybe about 2 baths, and we wanted to change some things around in here. So we got rid of the servant steps and we put in a nice 3rd floor owner suite, and did some really phenomenal things here. Hand scrape hardwood floors all throughout. I can talk all about the house, and this is the after photo. And I'm the type of person that can do a lot on a dime, so still get great quality, but we like to balance it out. So I knew that the skill was there. Like, okay, we can do this. I've seen it, I've touched it. I know that we could do this, but as a social worker, I just felt like, okay, well, how many of these am I going to do? Like, this gets boring after a while. I don't want to keep talking about the same thing. And I was looking for something deeper. But when I tell you, as a woman of faith, I truly believe that you just have to get up and walk and keep walking and keep trusting and believing that God is going to show you what that next thing was. So I continued sharing with people what I was doing. And eventually I came across an old college mate, and he shared with me that he was doing some great things in Baltimore, and he invited me down. And I knew that I was looking for this thing. I didn't know what the thing was. And he invited me down, and I've been to Baltimore several times. But this time when I came down, my lens was completely different. And when I arrived, I said, wow, there's a lot happening here in Baltimore. And the people that are walking past all the different development, they have blinders on and they don't see what's really happening. And then I also feel like the people that's developing, they're not really talking to or connecting with the people. This is what I'm saying in the car. I didn't know I was going to walk into a developer that had a heart like mine, an agent that had a heart like mine. And we started talking about, affordable housing opportunities and financial literacy classes and all these different things. And this was stuff that my company was actually doing, right? We were contracting with local schools in the Philadelphia area, as well as in Trenton, teaching students about budgeting, saving, investing. But I still knew there's something else that was missing. So before, I don't want to go too long into this because we have some other phenomenal speakers that you're going to hear from. I knew that when I left that place, something was different. So I left there. I came back home to Philly within, and by the way, although I was talking to 2 men that were in the development space, I left my social work hat on. So I talked about social work from a macro level. By the time I got back home, my college mate calls me and he says, how soon can you get back down here? And I'm like, what? He said, they absolutely loved everything that you said, want to continue building with you. Can you get back down here in 2 days? Sure. I think I got the address the morning of where I was going. Little did I know that where I was going was to the Department of Housing in Baltimore, and to go and share the same values, the same principles that I was taught as a social work student, combining them with the seed that was planted, by my father in real estate and entrepreneurship, and little did I know. And I went into that room and I shared my thoughts and my ideas, and they said, if you could put this down on paper, we might be able to do some things. So fast forward, and if we can bring up the next slide. Fast forward, we have been developing and forming relationships. Actually, the one with the houses, that would be great. We have been developing in the East Baltimore section of the city. We've spent the last year, I feel like it was somewhat of a wash, but we did some growing, even though we didn't do any massive building last year. We have been focusing on community development in East Baltimore, meeting with neighborhood association members, meeting with neighbors, meeting with local politicians, and really asking them, what is it that you need? Doing the research. So to someone else, it's like, well, Joanna, you started your company in December of 2017. Like, this whole block should be done by now. You might be right, if we weren't thinking about taking the time to talk to the people, if we weren't looking to find out, is it more rental options that you need or more home ownership options that you need? If we weren't doing that, you might be right. But because we focus on the heart of the people, this actually started as a one house opportunity that flowed into a five property opportunity that now it's literally a neighborhood that we are focusing on. So this is one side of our block development, and I'm really excited about the things that are happening here. We're doing a mixed community living. There will be on this particular block single family homes, condos, in addition to a few duplexes that we are going to provide for rental options, because we want to meet everyone where they are as much as we can. But we did not stay just there. We did not just look at the fact that Baltimore is looking to decrease their vacant homes, right? I mean, Baltimore is the birthplace, of redlining. Unfortunately, I would encourage you to look that up to get deeper into that. I could talk about redlining all day. We said, what about the lots? Can we do urban gardening? Can we do some other things? Little did I know, and this is why I call this my God, the God project, around the corner, there was an abandoned urban farm. And I never knew this when I first came to this neighborhood with one house, just one. Never knew this. But fast forward, when we got held up and we couldn't understand why we couldn't get this one house moving and going, we started focusing on land development. And I said, well, if we can't build right now, let's focus on where we can actually plant some things and do some phenomenal things. I didn't know that it was an urban farm that was abandoned right around the corner. Like, it's not even a full block that you have to walk to get to this space. And we just started cleaning up in that area. And later on, we found out that, it was left to the side. We didn't even know it was a farm. And we actually are transitioning this farm, this abandoned urban farm, to a outdoor recreational space. If you can bring up that slide, we have the renderings for that. That will have chess tables. So we learned from the community that there is a youth chess league. The community also stated that they wanted to have fitness equipment, and obviously a place where children can play, where you can see the slides and the slide in the back of this particular rendering. So I'm sharing this with you to say, as Professor Jay has always stated to me, the answer is not no. It's how can we get it done? How can we stop riding by these abandoned lots that are full with trash and debris? How can we do this and do it together? And because that we have always focused on the heart of the people, I must say, what someone may think all of this is costing us, the development is probably costing us more than the acquisition. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to say that when you are focusing on the people will always make sure that the people that are coming to help them are taken care of. So that's my time. If you have any questions, I would, definitely love to answer those questions as much as possible. But we are O'Hara Developments, focusing on the heart of the people, and we're going to be right here in Baltimore for some time. We are expanding into other areas as our team is also expanding. I can't believe it. I tried to resist it, but it's just happening. And for anyone that, you know, believes in a higher being, I truly believe that the reason why the one house did not move the way that I had anticipated to, because I had already done this before, is because God was planning to give us something even bigger. So it's like, I'm going to hold this up until you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're going to bless more people than what I'm thinking in my head as one house. It was a whole neighborhood. So thanks again for my time, and thank you for this opportunity.
Wow, well, fantastic. I mean, that's a really tough act to follow, Joanna. Incredible work. So for all those who are interested, my name is Hunter Beaton. I'm a sophomore at the University of Texas at Austin. I am 20 years old, and I'm the founder and CEO of Day One Bags. And this is just an incredible, incredible journey. And I am so incredibly honored to be around such amazing people. Wow, what a pleasure and an honor it is to be here. So before I really get into it, I want to give just the background of, who am I and how did I end up coming to find and lead Day One Bags? And what even is Day One Bags? So as I said, I'm 20 years old and I'm at the University of Texas at Austin, but my journey with Day One Bags kind of began when I was 5 years old, when I was 8 years old, and 11 years old, when I got to experience the great pleasure, actually, of becoming a foster brother. So I am from my parents, I'm the blood child of my mom and my dad, and they ended up deciding to be foster parents. And when they did, we fostered three young individuals. They're actually my blood cousins, and we ended up fostering them, and they came into our home. But what I noticed was when they moved into our home from the situation that they were in, they were given a trash bag full of their clothes or whatever items they had in their hands or in that possession at that time. But when I was 5, 8, and 11, respectively, which each of my siblings, now adopted siblings, came through to our home, I noticed that they had a trash bag. And being young, I was really peculiar. Like, why do these kids not have some sort of luggage like I do? When I go to school, I have a backpack to carry all my belongings and my things. So I was really perplexed, and I figured, oh, maybe it's something I'll understand as I get older. Well, I got older, and that understanding did not change, and I was still perplexed. And so when I was 15, I decided to do an Eagle Scout project based off of this idea that I want to provide these foster children with a bag, something that they can put their clothes in, whatever they have. It doesn't matter what it is, that they can have their own bag and to enjoy it and say, this is mine. I'm not trash. My belongings aren't trash. My belongings belong in a rightful bag, something that's mine and something that's important to me. And so I ended up doing 100 bags given to a local charity that supplies bags with foster children. And that was it. I figured, oh, great. I finished my Eagle Scout project. I don't need to worry about any other big initiatives like that. Well, a month goes by and I'm hearing about all the amazing work that the project ended up impacting. And I got a calling from God, and I'm a believer, and I knew at that moment that I was called to do something more and to impact a little bit differently. And so I decided to begin a sustainability project, and that's where the Day One Bags nonprofit comes in. And this is where we supply these bags. And I'll pull one up. These military-grade bags, they're here in Texas. So I'm from a little town outside of San Antonio, and our bag supplier graciously provides us with these amazing quality bags that we give to foster children. And we want them to have this, and this is the backpack version, and that they can use from school to wherever they're moving or whatever they have, they can call it their own, because it's a problem that many of the children, unfortunately, were given trash bags. So this is where it started. It started after my Eagle Scout project, and I started out with just a few, started in my local area, my local county. And since then, 4 years has passed And we have now given over 40,000 bags in 22 states. And this is just a phenomenal feat. And I'm still surprised to this day that it really would not have been impossible without donors and people that were caring about these foster children. And the fact that our motto is dignity, not trash. And we wanted to provide something even as simple as this simple black backpack that they can use and provide as their own. And so I just want to share one story that I remember very vividly. And that was I was sitting at home and we were watching the TV and we're watching the news. And this incredible young individual, this young foster youth who's graduating from high school, he's raising awareness. He wants to call to mind all the other foster children that are going to be graduating. And graduating from high school for a foster child is an incredible achievement. It's very difficult, and very few actually get to achieve graduation at high school. And so he's raising awareness. And as there's this news story is coming along, I see what he has in his possession is a day one bag. Yeah, one of these. And I was so surprised because how we operate is we actually take these bags and we find out from agencies. So in Texas, we have the Texas Council of Child Welfare Boards. And we also have CPS, Child Protective Services. And we kind of work with them and we say, hey, do you have any foster children? How many do you have? And where can we send you these bags? And they say, oh, we have X amount of foster children. And then we supply them and transport them the bags that they can then provide to the social worker, and the social worker can come in. And so at that moment, that's where I wanted to, or in that moment, it's hard to make sure that, like these kids are actually getting the bags because I'm not personally giving it to them. But when this news story comes along, I see that he has this bag, and I'm so astounded because I've never met this young individual, but yet he has been impacted by a little change that I had back when I was a kid, and I decided to make a change, and he had it, and he was able and used it and carried it, and it looked worn. It was something that probably he used every day, and I was so incredibly happy and so incredibly proud of that fact. And so, yeah, with that, we are continuing to grow, and we are continuing to look and to provide wherever it is needed, and to continue to look at the new avenues and the people and reach out to those who need them. And so, like I said, we usually work through the CPS and the Texas Council of Child Welfare Boards, and looking for always new avenues to provide these foster children with the bags. And so I think I given a good picture of who I am. And yeah, and like I said, I'm still a university student, so I'm getting a degree in communication and leadership. And I'm hoping to continue my work as Day One Bags and continue to let it grow and flourish and see where God takes it. At first, I figured I was done in my Eagle Scout project, but yet I couldn't deny the call, and I had to agree and find new ways to grow and to reach out to this population. And I'm just so thrilled and honored to be here, and I'm so excited to see and hear about all of our other guests. And so with that, I thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Wow.
All right. Excellent, Hunter. Thank you so much for what you do. So much as well. I mean, it's good hearing from you and the work that you do. And Professor Joyner, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this platform. My name is Jack Brown. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of Core Services Group. We were founded probably about 16 years ago in March. My story dates back a little further than most. I have been in the social service field for about 28 years now. I started out as a vocational counselor, a job developer for a company that ran reentry centers for men and women that had transitioned from federal prison. I would say about 10 years into working at that company, I became vice president and a senior vice president. Then the company was sold. The company was sold to another organization, and basically our philosophies didn't align. And so when the other organization asked me to come on board, I did temporarily, but I knew that it was important for me to be true to the values of who I am and where I was raised. I am from New York, And with that being said, I always believe, based on the philosophy and information that my father gave me, and my mother and my grandmother, because those are the people that raised me, who better service us than us? And I wasn't disgruntled. I said, you know what, let me try to figure out how to make this work for me. The last thing I wanted to be was someone who worked for a company and the company transitioned to something else, and be put in a situation again where my future as a senior vice president or someone that was an executive in the organization was questioned, so to speak. And so what I did was I said, you know what, let me take the time out to see what it is to start a new organization. And so I started a company called Core Services Group, and that was in 2005. It took us about 2 years to actually get our first contract. So Core Services Group provides transitional and emergency housing for different populations. Today, we actually do a little bit more than that. We also do affordable housing, supportive housing, and different social enterprises. And so, but that was a maturation and to be able to get to that point. What was important to me, I believe at the time, was figuring out a way where the values that was important to me, the values that was important to our community, was still a part of the work that we did. And so my first contract was, again, after 2 years, providing services to adults living with HIV/AIDS. And I started out with 30 clients, one staff person. I think I'm staff person 001, and then, you know, subsequently other staff people. And based on that, we were able to get a little bit of reputation as far as the work that we did. And again, it was all about commitment, you know, the work that you do, and being true to the values of providing quality services to the population that you service. And so what we did after that was we applied for, you know, different requests for proposals, requests for qualifications. And I remember meeting someone from a city agency, and that city agency's contracting officer said, listen, you know what, you guys do great work with that population. And we like you, but we don't know if we love you. And I said, well, that's interesting. So how do we get married, so to speak? And they said, well, you know what, we're going to give you one contract, and we're going to see how you do. And so that contract was to provide homeless shelter services to 15 families. And we put everything that we had into that organization, into that facility, to that program. That program has spun into 42 other sites. We actually operate residential reentry centers for men and women that are transitioning from prison, runaway youth facilities for lesbian, gay, transgender youth. We operate transitional housing for adults living with HIV/AIDS, homeless shelters for single women, homeless shelters for single men, and homeless shelters for families. And we do this not just in New York. We actually have 3 facilities in Washington, D.C. We just were awarded the largest federal halfway house contract in D.C. to provide services to men that are transitioning from federal prison. And we are also now in Miami. And so I think what was important to me was to recognize, again, that we could do the work, right? And I got to tell you that in as much as it's so important to be an entrepreneur, it's also important to have great people around you who are going to make sure that the work that or your vision gets carried out. And I'll give you a little story. I remember being in Miami. I was probably in my early 20s, so that was many, many moons ago. And I went into, matter of fact, it probably wasn't that long ago, now I think about it. I went into a store to buy a jacket, and the jacket was one of these fancy jackets. It was like a military jacket that had about 4 or 5 different zippers. And again, it's Miami, so it's a little warm. So I'm in the store and I get caught up in the zipper. Now, I don't know if it was the 4th zipper or the 3rd zipper or the 5th zipper, but I remember it zippering all the way up to the point where it zippered past my face. And I said, you know, out loud, what's going on here? But then I said out loud, everybody calm down. And I had about 3 or 4 fraternity brothers and some friends, in the store, and everyone's laughing. And they said, the only one that was out of sorts was you. Everyone was calm, and you're screaming, everyone calm down. So the reality is that sometimes we are in our own heads. We are in our own way of taking that next step, that leap to being that entrepreneur. And social entrepreneurship is as important as other entrepreneurships, right? Because we're in the business of changing lives. And so that was one of the situations that happened in my life when I said, you know what? If I block or move or remove those fears that I create within myself, then I can actually do this work, which is to lead others, and more importantly, provide quality services to a population that has been underserved for as long as I live. And so I remember the days when my family was on public assistance as a child, and the social worker coming into the house to see if we had a microwave or if we had too many things that were luxury items. So that's the era that I come from. And so this is really kind of near and dear to my heart. And so today with Core Services Group, we service over 4,500 clients. We have about 1,700 staff. In addition to that, we have a development arm. We have other social entrepreneurship arms. We provide jobs to some of our clients, whether it be in security, food service, or maintenance. And so we really believe that transitioning people from homelessness or prison to permanency, the bottom line is that folks need livable wage employment. And so we believe that we're good at that. We're unapologetic about that, and we're unapologetically Black and brown. And not saying that we don't service others, but for us, who better service us than us? And that's what Core Services is. Thank you.
Jack, thank you so much. That was inspiring. As I told you yesterday, I plan to stalk you because that is where I want to go next with my venture and my vision to support foster care youth. But hello, everyone. Shout out to the Facebook Live community. My name is Tiffany Lane. Some call me T.Y. Lane. Some call me Dr. Lane. Dr. Joyner calls me Tiff. I am a proud student of hers, and I thank her for this platform. As she already noted, I am a social worker, diehard, BSW, MSW, PhD. I have on my Howard shirt today to represent HBCUs. Currently, I am a professor, associate professor at the University of North Carolina in Wilmington, where I serve as the BSW coordinator, not director. And I'll get into why that's important, because I had to step back to follow my vision. And I hope you all heard me. I had to step back to follow my vision. So yes, I enjoyed my time at Westchester University and also at Norfolk State University. Shout out to all of my NSU family who are on here today. But now I am the coordinator, and I'm enjoying it because it's given me the space and the opportunity to follow my passion. So I founded Almatine's Goodies. It's actually an initiative that is under a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Phenomenal Young Ladies. So right now we are simply an initiative. But I want to just take a minute, because I know we have don't have that much time, but take a minute just to talk a little bit about how I got here, because I think it's important. I wore Howard University as well, because that was the first space and place where it was an opportunity for me to talk about the Black experience, particularly child welfare, under Dr. Annie Brown, Dr. Chipungu, and it was an amazing experience. So while at Howard University, my area was child welfare, and I had the opportunity to work in some of the agencies in DC as an intern, and it really opened my eyes to some of the experiences. So when I graduated, I went right into social work in the schools, working with families and communities. And then actually, Dr. Joyner told me that Lincoln University, LU, in Pennsylvania, was looking for a child welfare instructor. And that's when everything just made sense. So I interviewed with Dr. Patricia Joseph, who is also one of my favorite people, who is now the dean at Lincoln University, and had the opportunity to teach amazing students at Lincoln University, child welfare. While there, I had the opportunity to teach some other classes. And so what really sparked my interest in this population was working with them in the classroom, and I had no idea. I assigned an assignment that required that the students talk about their family. And a couple students said, well, I can't do that. And if you all know me, I'm like, well, you have to do it, right? It's an assignment, but they couldn't do it. And they talked to me about their experiences and how they were foster care youth. And it blew my mind. I mean, it took me to a whole nother level and a whole nother thought process. As educators, many of you know that we learn from our students. And that was a teachable moment for me to be more sensitive to my students, but also this population was just intriguing to me because I was just amazed that they were actually even at Lincoln University pursuing a degree in human services. So while at Lincoln University, I got to sit at the table with a lot of professionals. And one day I said, well, why can't I get my PhD, right? Why can't I make a change in higher education? And under the direction of Dr. Joseph, Dr. Mit Joyner, I applied to Morgan State University, Urban Strong, shout out, the best PhD program, social work in the land. Yes, I said it. And I say that because this was a space that nurtured my interest in working with youth who aged out of foster care, focusing on African Americans. I'm very unapologetic about my research agenda, which will always be to look at marginalized groups, African Americans, particularly aging out of foster care. So while at Morgan State University, I had the chance to work under Dr. Belinda Smith on a project, which only inspired me to continue the process of doing some research in this area. So when it was my time to write that dissertation, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I was going to look at the experiences of African-American youth who aged out of foster care and transitioned into higher education. My team was amazing. Dr. Chipungu, Dr. Belinda Smith, and Dr. Joseph, all-star team who supported this whole process. And so out of my research was a qualitative study, which was very intimate. So I learned about their stories, I learned about their experiences, I learned about their trials, their tribulations, their success. There was a lot of findings that came out of it, a lot of overwhelming issues, as well as successes for this population. And so after presenting my dissertation, Dr. Chipungu, I remember it. What are you going to do with this? It was a great question in front of an audience of everybody there to watch me defend. And I said that I'm going to do something. I'm going to create some type of organization that would support this population. Wasn't sure how, because I knew I wanted to get into higher education. So let me go back just a little bit. In the process of me writing my dissertation, my mom did die. She died in 2011. Her name was Almatine Coleman. So it was a rough road to get through the process of even finishing the dissertation. But again, my team was amazing. And so I was able to complete my dissertation in 2013, defend it, and then start to think about some ideas about this population in terms of how can I support? I know I'm a researcher, I know I am an academic, but how can I really do some work in the community and still live my life, right? I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I consider myself a mobilizer and someone who wants to impact communities. So that's just for all of the shout outs to those who have, made comments about this today. Some of us just want to make an impact. We're not here to make money. We're here to make an impact. And so Almatine's Goodies was developed or birthed in 2017. I had an idea. I had interns from Rutgers University. Shout out to Reggie and Stephanie, who I'll never forget. Students at West Chester University who followed me and needed an internship. And so we made it happen. And so it birthed, and it was called Almatine's Goodies, in supporting foster care youth who are in college. So although my research agenda is focused on African Americans, this initiative services all who fall within that criteria. Just want to make that point clear for those who are watching today. And so our vision is to support youth who have aged out of care and are in post-secondary institutions. We've expanded it. So remember, post-secondary institutions aren't just colleges. It could be trade schools. We have sent packages to people who are trying to get their real estate license. We really want to support this population. So that's our vision. Our mission is to collaborate with, social service organizations, higher educational systems to provide supports for this population. Since our existence, we have served probably over 50 youth, not that many, within 5 states. So that's just been a blessing for us as we continue on to do the work. I guess I'll just go on and say a little bit about, I plan to expand. So look out in 2022 for some other initiatives that's going to support this population through some social entrepreneurship and supporting them through other efforts. But I want to go back just to give you an idea of the findings. What were some of the findings in my dissertation? This population needed emotional and financial supports. They were always on relentless pursuit for scholarships, for money. They wanted to prove to those who told them they couldn't do it that they could do it. And when they talked about those who said that, they talked about foster care parents, they talked about social service individuals, and they really wanted to prove that they could get their degree, which made it almost even much better for me to want to be a part of this journey for this population. So again, I had the opportunity to sit down with about 12 individuals. Wow, over 30 days of this, because I went in and out into their world to learn more about their experience, and had the opportunity to do 5 publications on this, which was okay. It was good. I published, great. But I'm telling you right now, Almatine's Goodies is the most rewarding thing that could have happened out of this process at Morgan State University Foundation and Howard University. So I want to make that clear as we think about our visions as students who are sitting in the classroom thinking about how can I make this work? It will work if you have support and you have the drive and resiliency to continue on with the process. So I want to just take the moment too to thank all of my donors and all of the professionals who have referred students our way. We just shipped some out the other day. So we thank you for all of your donations. We are totally based on donations, and it's been just amazing in terms of being able to ship out once we get a referral. So what do we ship out? We ship out anything from soap, lotion, deodorant. We've had some students who didn't have towels. We've been able to partner with Walmart to have that shipped directly to their dorms. And so right now we're really open in terms of what we can provide to the students. So I really urge you all to visit our website, particularly if you know anyone who may need any supports. We are here to support until we don't have. And when we don't have, I will be back out on a pursuit to get more funding to support this population. I don't do it to make money. I make no money from this. My money comes from University of North Carolina, Wilmington, sidebar. But again, this is just something that I personally want to do to make an impact on this community. So look out in 2022 for some other ventures to support this population. I want to shout out Hunter before I give the mic back to Mit, because his organization actually donated some bags to us, which is very helpful because now we're building, right? We're starting to connect and network and be able to support the same population. So Hunter, just wanted to shout you out. Jack, excuse me, I will be, of course, stalking you because I need a new mentor. And Joanna, you already know I love you to death, my AKA and WCU sister. So Mit, I'll shut up because, I'll keep going on.
Okay, so, Tiff, you said I can't do 8 minutes, and I knew that you could do 8 minutes. I knew all of you all could do 8 minutes. You could do the whole show. Actually, I could have each of you on here. Wow, really great information. We're going to start taking questions in a minute. So we'll be able to put the questions at the bottom, and then I will ask them to you, or I may elaborate, or I may adjust the question. But the one question, it's more of a comment, and I'd like you all to respond to. Every one of you talked about your parents and how they gave you that foundation. How they gave you a vision. So it really does matter at the very beginning. And we also know that everybody doesn't have parents. They have mentors and they have people in their lives. So it really does take a village to help someone go up those crystal stairs, as I've talked to. Let me ask you this. Often people, where you are now, I mean, all of you all have your thing and you're going on. People get jealous of that. Like, wow, how did you do that? When you stumble, what do you do to get back up? Anybody can answer that.
I'll share. And this is actually a personal story, and I won't drag this on because we all have a great gift of gab to teach and all types of stuff on this panel. When I decided to step out on faith, I literally gave everything. So when I say everything, I mean every coin in my pocket, from retirement to checking accounts. I put it all on the table when I knew that God called me to do some really great work. So this goes beyond social work. This is ministry for me. So I had a partner, and it was, I mean, the partner was bringing in almost $1 million. So I was like, oh, well, this is going to be great because I know how to build and I have the heart for the people. Like, this is going to be awesome. And very, very close to, I want to say almost the day before, like everything was ready to get going, and they pulled out at the last minute. And at this point, I've already put my voice out there. I've already committed to a community. So what was I going to do? And that's where giving my all came from. Like, I had no choice. But we're looking back, that's what I needed to do. Because granted, is there money in development? Yes, absolutely. And as social workers, we shouldn't be afraid of that as well. Yes, we do have the intellectual capital to solve major solutions across the universe, across the world, and we should be compensated for that. But that wasn't the thing. I was chasing purpose, not paper. When you put value first, money is it's just like a byproduct of you doing great, phenomenal work. But what I realized is that I probably may have been a bit too focused on the fact that I had a great partner. So what do I do when I stumble? I don't give up. I went right back to, why did you do this? What were you focusing on? And for me, it was the people. It was changing mindsets. It was putting wealth education first. I consider myself to be an economic change agent and making those conversations the norm at the table, where my father made, counting up the money from our rental income. That was normal. Me writing out checks and going with him to the bank. As a kid, I really wanted the candy at the teller, stand, not really about, the deposit slip, but whatever worked, right? For that to become a norm. And I didn't want the wealth gap for people that look like me to continue to widen. So I had to go back to, why did I get started? And I just kept moving forward and serving. And I just knew that something was going to work out. And one of the things and Tiffany, by you doing this, reminded me, thank you to all of our investors that either you came to an investment meeting, you heard the opportunity, you referred a resource, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it's just to get up and keep walking.
Okay. Now, so, in social work, we have this thing called risk taking, right? So it takes a risk. But we also have this thing, and Hunter, we're going to bring you to the table. I'm going to bring you to the table of graduate school and social work. I'm going to be preaching to you soon, right? But we have this thing called understand your purpose, and sometimes we can process things to death. We think about it and we think about it and we think about it and then we think about it. And we go home and we talk to somebody else and they're like, wow, how can you help those that are listening understand that you only process, but you also have to take risks?
We know you don't like the process part, Mitch.
Right. I'm not a process person too much, right? But how do you take and process and think it through, but then take the risk, right? How did you take the risk, Jack, of being able to say, I don't want to work for this other company. I'm going to start my own.
That's a good question. So I think for me, it was more along the lines of recognizing that I didn't want to be in a situation again where someone can tell me you're fired, or we're selling the company, and if the new company is interested in you coming on board with your skill set, then they may take you. And so that was really an uncomfortable feeling for me when the company that I was associated with was acquired by this conglomerate. But what was, I think, more important to me was the fact that I think my father had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, my father was a laborer and a carpenter, and he worked in he was in the union, but he always did some side jobs. And so we always went with him on these side jobs on the weekend. And so while others were playing football and basketball and baseball, we were learning how to put together how to hang a door, or how to hang kitchen cabinets and things of that nature. And I was like, you know what, like, this is not really that fun. But he was like, well, this is going to be of value to you later on. And I was like, well, I need later on to start now, because I don't really understand the value of this today. And so So to me, taking that risk was important just because I didn't want to be in that situation again. And I really knew from my experiences with the organization that I was a part of, that when the company first started, from the time that they were here to there, I was very instrumental in that part. And when they kept, and believe me, like I was a vice president, a senior vice president. When a company tells you you don't need to worry about the financials, right? And you recognize that your department is doing much better than everyone else, then you need to learn about reading financials, right? And so, and they took the fact that there I was in human services and focusing on working with people, and they took, they took that as an opportunity to say, well, you know what, let's run some numbers behind him. But then when I said, you know what, I'm good at numbers, and people will tell you that's always kind of been my thing. And so I think they got mixed me up with someone else. But at the end of the day, I recognize that the power was within ourselves, and we doubt ourselves so much when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Because I remember my mother said, "Oh, my stomach hurts. Like, you're gonna go out there on your own?" And my father, who's always been entrepreneurial, he was like, "Well, then go ahead." But my mother's like, "Ooh, like my stomach," and I was like, "Mom, you got to get over it. There's Pepto-Bismol. There's a couple of things that you can take." But it was, it was that encouragement from family that said, "Take the risk." And you had nothing before, so to have nothing again, you've seen it already. It's no surprise.
Right. Hunter, when people are Eagle Scouts, they usually go try to climb some mountain somewhere, right? But you had the heart of trying to help people. How did you take that of helping someone, of seeing people move with garbage bags? That's a real powerful statement. People aren't garbage, right? That resonated with you at 5. People aren't garbage. Why do they need a garbage bag? How do we get to helping people understand that the predicaments that sometimes people find themselves in is for no fault of their own, and want to help people and sustain it? A lot of people like to do it for a minute, but then they go off to do something else. So you sustained this over the years. How did you keep that passion growing in your heart?
Right. Yeah. Well, that was one of the biggest things when I first was starting my Eagle Scout project, is that it looked different, and different sometimes is challenging. And it's especially difficult with Eagle Scout projects because, I was going to be doing a project that would maybe at that moment go away at some point. Our supplies would be exhausted at some point. And all the other Eagle Scout projects are usually building a bench or a walkway, something that will stay there for surely an indefinite amount of time. And this was not the case. And that was a hard thing I had to pitch to the Eagle Scout board, that you go and you prepare your initiative. So it's a really great thing. But I had to tell them, like, this is how I'm going to do it. And that was a big thing that came up. But what happened was, and that's where God came in and told me, this is a moment where you've started a change, right? But we're going to keep moving you in a different way, in a way to keep sustaining it. And how I did that was reminding why I had the idea in the beginning. And it was focusing on that moment. Is like, I won't be able to solve a problem, right? Or hopefully that's the goal, is to help alleviate the problem, right? But I can surely dip into that and try what I can, me being a meager 15-year-old, try whatever way I can to focus in and to give in that way. And that's where my sustainability has come in, because there have been plenty of times where I feel completely discouraged. I mean, I'm a college student. I'm trying to balance all these different things. And sometimes it feels like there's just this big need. And man, I'm down here. I'm so small. But the point is focusing in on why I had the idea at the beginning, and remembering that no matter what step I take, it's a step towards growing and making it a larger impact, right? Mm-hmm. And never giving up. That's such a cliche, but in this moment, and especially in the social work line of work, granted, I'm not a social worker, but I certainly am working a lot with y'all, and mm-hmm. I know it's an incredible area. But something that is really hard is, you're going to see things that are really tough and are going to break your spirits. But what's really important about it is you never give up, and knowing that you can make the change. It doesn't need to be something grandiose. It doesn't need to be something mm-hmm. amazing mm-hmm. to make that change. And even kind of a personal motto I have for Day One Bags is, if I can provide one change in one singular foster child, then that should be good enough for me. Mm-hmm. That's sometimes, right. So thank you.
All right, before I take this question, and I'm going to take it, Ms. Calloway, just give me one more second. I want to segue to Dr. Lane for a minute. I know Dr. Lane's story, and I know her mom used to always have goodies for people. So yes. Kind of talk about how you're growing into your mom's legacy, right?
Yeah, that's why I got so much weight on me. We ate very well in our home. But my mother actually took in 3 of her nephews. Her sister passed away from breast cancer, and so part of the idea was centered around her being able to do kinship care and also giving goodie bags to people who would come over and create stuff. And so that's kind of like the idea behind it. I was like, oh, it should be called Almatine's Goodies. Because I said, what goodies do you have for me when I would go and visit her at her house? So that's kind of, where it came from. And in terms of me continuing to go on, I mean, it's in her name. I have to continue. Yes, I have to ensure that her name is held to the highest standard. And so that is why I do what I do. And to be honest with you, from a qualitative researcher, when you sit and listen to stories, it's totally different from reading numbers. Mm-hmm. It's totally different from knowing the stories, sitting and hearing the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, the trash bags, the emotional abuse. And so I have to continue on. And I take social work seriously. I do, Mit. Yeah, I was that student. When you told me to learn dignity and worth of a person, I learned it. Right. I internalize it, and I mean that. When we think about service, and then when you think about being an African-American, I'm dedicated to my community. I'm dedicated to who we are, and if they need support, I want to be part of that process. I don't have to be big like Hunter said. So, yeah.
You're all big in my mind. If you help one person. Okay. I especially enjoyed hearing Jack say it took 2 years before he received his first contract, because sometimes we get discouraged when we don't see action. That's a wonderful, wonderful question, Jack.
Good point. Right. And so, and I appreciate that, because, and in that 2 years, I had to learn that when you are responding to grants, at least from my perspective or from my experience, that you will be rejected a few times before you're accepted. Mm-hmm. And it was a social worker that told me, or who I spoke to, and I didn't know her prior to learning about what she did. She was in supportive housing, and she said, "What do you think the real need is right now? Mm-hmm. You're writing grants and you're looking for funding for your 501c3." And I said, "Well, the need is housing. It's supportive housing, emergency housing." And she goes, "Well, why don't you find that? You said that you know a little bit about construction. You have a portfolio of people that have properties. Maybe if you find that, then we can walk into one of these agencies and say, you know what? We're not writing a grant. We're coming here with something that you need. Yeah. And here's his experience with others. He doesn't have experience with his own company, but if he was able to do that work for the other company and they made a lot of money, then why deny him on his own?" And it was a social worker, and I'm not going to mention her name because she'll probably be a little bit embarrassed. And that was 17 years ago. And so we walked into, I found the building, and the way that I found this building was I had a relationship with a couple of banks. And the bank said, "Well, you know what? You said that you're looking to get into a nonprofit. There's a nonprofit that is struggling with their building. They have 120 rooms. They took over a former YWCA. And for whatever reason, they can't get out of their own way. And so I went there to negotiate with them to not try to take their building from them, but to partner with them and say, this is your asset. I know how to build things. I know construction. I know how to write programs. If we work together, you have the building. I believe I have the know-how. Let's put something together where we can make this work for all of us. And again, that was our first program for adults living with HIV/AIDS. We received 30 clients initially. We got up to 120 clients because we had 120 rooms after a year. But it was that test, right, to see if this is what we really knew how to do. And again, right, that's just my story. I know folks that focus on grants, but that really put a light bulb in my head that, at least for our company, focusing on grants was not really what we wanted to do. We're looking for fee for service. Mm-hmm. Right? We provide a service, you provide a fee. And so with that being said, I recognize that was the best way for us to get our introduction into getting off the ground, so to speak.
Okay.
That's so inspiring.
Question for Joanna from the National Association of Social Workers. What can be done to bring up Baltimore economically? Housing is part of the puzzle, but in a perfect world, what would you want? What is your beloved community there in Baltimore? What does it look like?
That's a great question. What can be done? It starts with education and exposure. Exposure is everything. When you bring people into an environment that, as Jack stated earlier, one, the leader looks like you, right? The people that are helping develop also look like you. It does make a difference. And you're actually seeing like, wow, like, I could build that house, or, if it's in the education realm, oh, I can get that degree. I think it's exposure. We need to be able to get past the who's who. And I'm not speaking the who's who necessarily in Baltimore, but I'm speaking in general. We need to get past the who's who and really start opening up doors of equal opportunity so people can be properly exposed and be informed of the information. I've had the opportunity to serve on various committees. And one of the things that I must say, especially from a political standpoint, when I would look at things from an equals view, if we're talking about funding is a challenge, or if we're talking about available programs is a challenge, I would look at it from an equals view and say, well, do you know that ABC program across the street is saying they have $500,000 that they need to get rid of before the fiscal year is over? And do you know that DEF organization is looking for the same educational program that you've been running for the last 5 years? So what happens is that we're not talking to each other. And again, we're operating in silos, and we're only wanting to say, well, my company is better than this, and my company does that. And who's suffering? The people in the middle, the community in the middle. So what we do need to do is lock arms and say, well, if I have housing, right, and someone else has an interest in reducing the amount of students that are not necessarily, in school, they're on the street. The students need to be actually in a classroom. Well, maybe we can figure something out where I'm providing housing, you're providing the students, and then somebody else has a specialty in education. And now we have this wraparound solution where we're solving a problem. So, I know that question was specific to Baltimore, but I think in general, we need to educate and we need to expose, provide exposure, and most importantly, we need to connect and work together.
Right. We all need to learn how to tear down those walls and build longer tables, right? We have so many walls that keep us apart based on so many issues. So that's a good point. Jack, you were getting ready to say something. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I was just fascinated with what Joanna said, and so I was just giving her kudos and accolades.
Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, because y'all can talk to each other. Do we have some more questions back there? Question for Hunter and Tiffany: how many people do you serve, and how much bigger do you want to get?
I will just say, I think I noted that to date we've served about 50 students, but keep in mind that we do fall, spring, fall, spring. We don't leave them. I just had 3 students text me. We have a text number we use, and are you sending out packages? Absolutely. In terms of how big, as big as I can get, I don't really have a maximum at this point. I'm gonna just keep going until I can't go, and then again get in the streets and start recruiting and get more donations and possibly grants to support this program. So if you have anyone, feel free to go on our website and submit a referral. We're happy to support.
And how about you, Hunter?
Certainly. So kind of we look at it as a proportional to the amount of bags we give. So we've given over 40,000 bags, and one can maybe assume that we've helped over 40,000 youth. And that's a huge number, and we're so great. And actually, we're growing that because right now we're in the middle of a campaign called Adopt a 2021 Foster Senior, where we're focusing on high school graduates, and we're giving them bags, and we're giving them books and things that they can have within those bags that will prepare them for adulting and prepare them for that new leg of journey. And so our growth is still growing, and we are so incredibly excited. And I think the question is where we're going to go. I have no clue, and I just hope that it will continue in that way, and we will go in wherever we're taken.
Well, Hunter, I know people on your board. I know that all of you work with the community, and you have Tony Alexander, you have Ty Robinson, you also have Steve Pemberton. You have people that you are connected to that help uplift you, and Joanna, you the same. So how do you all find? And Tiffany, I just thought maybe you could get a. I guess had an idea when you said that was, Joanna was my grad assistant at Westchester, and Joanna helped me raise over a couple of $100,000. Maybe you need to get a grad assistant that really kind of focuses on the goodies, right? I mean, that's what happens, right? That's kind of, and all of you have talked about the strength of networking. So tell me, do you all have boards? Tell me what you have. Who works in your operation?
Yeah, we have for O'Hara Development Partners, CDC, we have a board that focuses on our 3 pillars, which is green space development, housing and financial education, as well as financial literacy for youth. And honestly, without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. Back in the early part of March, actually March 15th, we launched our housing and financial counseling initiative, which is a partnership with NHS Baltimore, that stands for Neighborhood Housing Services. And we actually have our first group of 25 participants that are going through the program, learning about home ownership, learning about financial stewardship, so they can eventually become homeowners. So without our board, we would not be where we are today. And that's a completely separate entity to O'Hara Developments that really focuses on finding a property and fixing them up.
Yeah. Well, you and I used to have talks all the time about when I would come back from them bank meetings, where you got to know people inside and let people understand how to get money, right? People don't understand and make those connections. Hunter, tell us a little bit about your board.
Yeah, exactly. We have a board, and they are incredible. They are incredible people. So like you already said, Tony Alexander, he's on there. Ty Robinson, she's on there, and even some of my family members. So my mother, we're operating as a treasurer because she's been my top supporter, and that's shout out to Mom. I love you. I'm far away from her, not too far, certainly. She lives in San Antonio area. And I'm here in Austin, but I miss her, and shout out to her because she's one of my top supporters. So my mom, my dad's on there as well. And I want to also shout out my sister. So she's my social media expert. And so all the amazing posts that you see, and everyone's like, oh, great job, Hunter. No, that's not me. That's my sister, Haley. She is rocking it and doing an amazing job. So
it takes a village, doesn't it? And your parents gave you that core because they were foster parents, right? So they did something and exposed you to how to give back. How about you, Jack? How many people? I know you have a lot of people that work for you. Do you have a board?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so we do have a board. We have a 7-member board, and our board is pretty much made of the same people that helped found the organization. And so they've been around for 16 years. But what I do tell our board members, or at least I try to put out there, is that every board member should bring someone else every year that can be a part of our committees, right? Because you don't have to be on our board to be a part of our committees. And so I think that that's, important too, because some people don't have the time to attend whatever the mandated board meetings that there are according to the bylaws. But if they can attend a committee meeting, then that'd be great too. And so it's just been a wonderful ride. Our board has really allowed me to, and they said, Jack, we're going to unleash you to go out there and do what you do. And I said, well, you know what, back up, because I'm on the move. And they've been 100% supporters of what is it that we do here, and they bring resources as well, right? Not necessarily financial resources, but information. And I think that information and access is everything when it comes to looking to take your idea to the next step.
You're right, Jack. The fact is that when you develop advisory boards, they can help you with your vision, right? Because then you bring on for a year or two the people that have those skills to be able to help guide you and get you to where you want to go. So you're right about advisory boards. I find them very, very helpful when, we don't all know marketing. We don't all know communication. We don't all. So you find those advisory board members that do. And Tiff, what about you?
So for the 501c3, which is Phenomenal Ladies, we have a board, but for the initiative, we have an advisory board, but we are transitioning to possibly a foundation. So we will be recruiting for a board. So this is exciting for me. I'm telling too much. I said I wasn't going to talk too much about what's to come, but yeah, right. That's on the move. Yeah.
But let me just tell you a little bit about Tiff. But when Tiff was sitting in my classes, she started a group called Phenomenal Young Ladies. Yeah. And it was for young ladies in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is Chester, right here. And she worked with you, and she had no idea where at that time, Tiff was, I always say to all y'all are pledging, Tiff was pledging, right? And I was going through classes for. She was going through a growth period, but I was so admired that I used to get on Phenomenal Young Ladies page. Remember, you had the page, and so your ideas just evolved, and not only that, the young ladies were successful and they're giving back, right?
Amazing. So shout out to all of my alumni.
Right. So I know we're getting ready to come to the end of our road. I'm gonna be Gladys Knight. We're coming to the end of our road, right? But never to the end of our ideas. And I think what you all have helped our audience understand is anybody that has any idea, it's achievable. As Jack said, we get in our way. Right? We get in where, we can't do that. We pretend we have this imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, how do I do that? But you just take those steps and you're going to fall down. There are going to be many times you fall down, but you get up, right? You get up and you hurdle and you go through those challenges. Social work, and, over these calls over the last year, there have been calls to abolish social work. And, I really do hope that the day comes where we work ourselves all out of a job. I really do hope that we give people the skills so that they can navigate the systems together. And I really do hope that people understand that we don't want to develop oppressive. We don't want people to come here and have to need us for life, right? And every one of the reason why I wanted all of you on my show, I'm going to tell you the secret. Every one of you liberated somebody, right? Through buying housing. So when you come out of prison, where am I going to live, right? To I need a bag and I don't want to be embarrassed and not have a bag. To all my friends get these care packages at school and I don't have one. You've given and you started where the issue is not through an oppressive model. And that's what social work is all about. It's not about micro, meso, macro. It's not about that. It's about uplifting everyone. So let me just have you give a closing little statement. And anybody can start. All right, you don't all have that time. Just take. You can't do applause. You know what I say about process.
Well, I didn't know we was doing closing statements, but
right.
Just a statement.
Well, I'll end with this. I believe that one, I want to thank you, Professor Joyner, for allowing me to be on this platform. And again, this was a great group of folks to be with today. I just want to say that if you put your mind to it, and you recognize that the greatness is within yourself, and as social workers, one of the things that we focus on, is making sure that we recognize that, right, that the strength-based model, that sometimes it's right in front of you or around you, and if we focus on that, if we really put our time and effort into getting that one idea out there, then I think that we can change lives. And if you can change one life, you've changed multiple lives, because that is reciprocated over and over again as we move forward, in this world. So again, thank you for the platform. Thank you for all of the guests for sharing who you are and what is it that you do, and for touching the lives that you touch. And it's been a wonderful night for me to be here.
Thank you, Jack.
I'll go.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Joyner, for always being there to support all of us. But one thing that I was thinking about that I didn't get to discuss was the village. So when you are in the process of trying to actualize your vision, you do need a good village of people around you who are going to motivate you and touch you, even if it's one time. Me and Joanna had one talk in Martha's Vineyard, and I thought she was like the best empower I've ever, like, what? She just took me to a whole nother level in 30 minutes with ice cream. Remember that? Or was it donuts? It was one of those. But just make sure that you are around people who are going to motivate you. You have enough haters, so find you some motivators.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm honored to be here, Professor. It's really an honor. It's been great with you all as guests, and I'm so very delighted to be here. And I just wanted to say, like, I was thinking about how many people we've all collectively reached, and it's gotta be in the hundreds of thousands, surely. And it's just putting it in that way is just like it doesn't now. All those trials, all the small things that are holding us back, don't seem so hard anymore, and it seems very refreshing and awesome. So I thank you all, and I appreciate the time.
And Joanna.
Well, Professor Jay, I love you to life and beyond. So thank you for allowing me to be here on this platform. Tiff, I think that you were poked, so a stretching is coming. She's gonna get you. I heard it a little bit there.
I know that.
To Jack and and Hunter, I love both of your stories and the work that you're doing. Please, continue on. I look forward to connecting with you both in the near future. And to all of the social workers that are out there that are listening and those that will watch this in the replay, I am, as they sometimes say, a disruptor to the categories that has been placed on us as social workers. And what I want you to understand is that the conversation around wealth, the conversation around real estate, from my perspective as a woman of faith, these are areas that we already have dominion and authority over. We must allow our social workers, our future social workers, to come out of college with informed information around real estate and wealth. I have a platform that I am on all year called Before You Build. I have a 4-part ebook series that is currently available on beforeyoubuildebook.com. And we are actually doing a college special. That college special is for social workers. I am reaching out to social workers first, because I know if I reach out to the finance department, if I reach out to the business department, those seats will be filled very fast. So if you are interested in having Before You Build, the college series for your social work class, please reach out to us. That's info@o'haradev.com. They will learn about macro social work from a real estate perspective. They'll learn about community development. They will learn how to do the numbers and assess the same building that they want to have their clinical practice in, but how do you work the affordable, the lending that's available? How can you have maybe upstairs being rented out while you're doing your practice on the first floor? So when I express to you that wealth and that real estate also includes in our area of practice in the social work industry. It's all a part of it. It's not separate. It's a and, not one across the street. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can discuss that as a supplemental educational opportunity, or that could be something that we could talk about that also just boosts your existing social work program, your curriculum as a whole. Thanks again for having me on this platform, and I look forward to tuning in and joining again in the future.
Yes,
HBCUs, take advantage of that. HBCUs, take advantage of that.
I see that Dr. Angelo McLean said thank you. He's the CEO at NASW. He thought that was very inspiring. And so I also want to thank you from Dr. Angelo McLean, as well as the board of directors of NASW. So this is happy hour time. I am so happy to cheers.
Cheers.
One thing that social workers always must do is have self-care. Now, if you want to change your career, NASW is getting ready to have a career fair, and it's screening along the bottom. Think about just going to that career fair. It's virtual. As they say, take the risk, don't process too long, and jump into something where you see your dream. And before you know it, I'll be calling you up for an essential chat with Mit. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Take care. Be well, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye now.